What's up, everybody? How are you? Hope all of you are doing well. In this session, we are going to talk about eccentricities in Read Aloud. Eccentricities you can understand as basically some points that you need to keep in mind while you are dealing with this task. Okay. Those of you who don't know what exactly Read Aloud is, then I suggest you first watch my video lecture in which I have provided complete explanation of the question type Read Aloud, and then you can come back to this session, or else you won't understand anything that I am talking about in this portion of the lecture. Alright, so without any further ado, let's directly cut to the chase. Alright, everyone. So this next part is extremely important, and I genuinely mean extremely important, because what we are going to discuss next is not grammar, not vocabulary, not even general speaking practice. This is to uncover the hidden pronunciation mechanics that silently decide your PT read aloud score. Most students think if I read clearly, I will get a high score, but the truth is very different. The PT system is listening for very specific phonetic signals. Tiny pronunciation behaviors, stress patterns, reductions, linking, intonations, all the subtle things that make speech sound naturally English instead of translated English. And here is the shocking reality. Even strong English speakers lose marks simply because they don't know these hidden traps. So today, slide by slide, we are going to decode every single eccentric pronunciation feature that appears in read aloud passages. And by the end of this session, you will not just understand read aloud, you will start to hear English like the scoring AI hears English. That this is the real goal of this next portion. Let's begin with something that looks simple, but is actually one of the most dangerous pronunciation traps in read aloud. Silent letters. Now think about this. English spelling and English pronunciation are not perfectly connected. Many letters are written but never spoken. For example, honest. We do not say honest. Island. We do not pronounce the word S. It is not Iceland or Island. It's island. Then night. The K completely disappears. It is not knight. It's night. So what is the real problem for PT students? The real problem is reading habit. Most learners were trained in school to read every letter carefully, but in spoken English, good pronunciation actually requires the opposite skill. You must learn which letters to ignore, and here is why this matters to scoring. When you pronounce a silent letter, the AI does not think, oh, small mistake, no problem. Instead, it hears distorted sound pattern, reduced intelligibility, non-native pronunciation signal, and immediately your pronunciation score drops. So the lesson from this slide is powerful and simple. In read aloud, correct silence is just as important as correct sound. Sometimes the best pronunciation is not pronouncing at all. Now we move into something even more important than sounds, word stress. This is where many advanced students still lose marks because they pronounce every letter correctly, but the word still sounds strange. Why? Because English is a stress timed language, not a syllable timed language. That means some syllables are strong and loud, and others become weak and reduced. Take the word photograph. The correct stress is on pho, the initial part, but many students say photograph. They inadvertently emphasize on the latter portion. Every sound is correct, but the music of the word is wrong. And pronunciation scoring in PTE is extremely sensitive to this music of speech. Here is the key insight I want you to remember forever. Pronunciation is not only about sounds, it is about rhythm. If stress is wrong, the AI hears the word as unnatural, non-native, and harder to understand. Scores quietly drop. So, from today onward, whenever you learn a new English word, do not ask how is it spelled. Ask instead, where is the stress? Now, this slide introduces a concept that many students find surprising. Even many might be completely unfamiliar with it. Homographs. These are words that are spelled the same but pronounced differently depending on meaning. For example, lead. Now, if it is a metal, then we pronounce it as lead. And if it is a verb, we pronounce it as lead. So, what is the danger in read aloud? The danger is mechanical reading. Some students look at the text and immediately start preparing pronunciation without first understanding the sentence meaning. But pronunciation in English is often controlled by meaning. So here is the golden rule for read aloud preparation. Always scan meaning before sound, because if meaning changes, pronunciation may also change. And this is why the 30-second preparation time is not only for pronunciation practice, it is actually for quick comprehension as well. Understanding the sentence protects your pronunciation. Next, we arrive at one of the most powerful secrets of natural English, the schwa sound. This tiny sound, schwa, is actually the most common vowel sound in the entire English language. But here is the interesting part. Most learners almost never use it correctly. Why is this? Because in many languages, every vowel must be pronounced clearly. But English works differently. In English, unstressed syllables become lazy, soft, relaxed, and reduced. And that relaxed sound is the schwa. Listen to this. Banana, not banana. It's banana. When students pronounce every vowel strongly, speech becomes heavy, robotic, unnatural, and fluency score decreases. So here is a life-changing pronunciation idea. Natural English is not about strong sounds, it is about smart, weak sounds. Master the schwa, and suddenly your speech starts sounding effortless and native-like. Next, we explore another serious pronunciation barrier, consonant clusters. These are places where many consonants stand together without vowels. Words like strength, twelfth, crisps. Now imagine you are a learner whose native language usually places a vowel before consonants. What happens? The brain tries to make pronunciation easier by secretly adding a small extra vowel. So instead of strength, students say something like strength. Okay, something like that. Okay, which is incorrect. And instantly the pronunciation sounds non-native. This is extremely important for PT scoring because clusters test articulation precision. So here is the key training idea. Your mouth must learn new movement patterns. Clusters are not about memory, they are about muscle training. And the more you practice them slowly and clearly, the more natural you read aloud becomes. Alright, now we reach a turning point in pronunciation training. Up to now, we were talking about individual words, But real English fluency is not about words in isolation. It is about what happens between words. This is where we meet two powerful concepts, linking and elision. Let me explain this in a very simple way. When native speakers talk, they do not stop after every word like this. Next, day, I, will, go, to, school. No, their speech flows like one continuous sound wave. So, next day becomes something like next day. Going to becomes gonna, and would you becomes woulda. Now, here is the critical insight for PT. The scoring system is not checking dictionary pronunciation, it is checking natural connected speech rhythm. So when a student reads word by word, the AI hears robotic rhythm, unnatural pacing, weak fluency signal, and fluency score drops because of all this. So remember this golden sentence. Fluent English is not clear separation. Fluent English is smooth correction. Your goal in Read Aloud is to sound like a flowing sentence, not a list of vocabulary items. Now let's talk about something that creates instant fear in many students. Long scientific or unfamiliar words. You see words like photosynthesis, quarantine, kernel, and suddenly your brain says, oh no, what if I pronounce this wrong? And that single moment of fear creates the biggest real problem, hesitation. And in Read Aloud, you already know hesitation is more dangerous than a small pronunciation error because hesitation damages fluency, confidence, speech rhythm all at the same time. So here is the professional strategy. During the 30-second preparation time, your first job is not to read the whole paragraph. Your first job is to hunt for dangerous words. Circle them mentally, pronounce them once in your head, remove the fear before recording begins. Because confidence in pronunciation creates confidence in delivery. Next, we meet a quieter but very interesting challenge, homophones. These are words that sound the same but have different spelling and meaning. For example, there, they are. All identical in sound but different in grammar and meaning. Now, you might wonder if they sound the same, why is this a problem in read aloud? Excellent question. And you are not wrong. The real problem is mental confusion during reading. When the brain pauses to think, which word is this? What does it mean? That tiny confusion creates a micro pause in speech. And PTE fluency scoring is extremely sensitive to micro pauses also. So the deeper lesson here is fluent reading requires instant meaning recognition, not slow decoding, not spelling analysis, but immediate understanding. Because when meaning is clear, speech becomes smooth. Now imagine a paragraph where three or four very long words stand next to each other. Words like uncharacter. See, even I am having a problem pronouncing it. Okay, that happens because when you are speaking rapidly and if such lengthy words come, then you might not be able to pronounce them carefully. Okay, so I will try one more time. Uncharacteristically. Uncharacteristically. And next one is incomprehensibilities. Incomprehensibilities. Even strong students feel nervous. But here is the truth. The difficulty is not pronunciation. The real difficulty is visual overwhelm. You get overwhelmed suddenly when you see such lengthy word appear in front of your screen. But don't panic. Your eyes see a very long word and your brain reacts emotionally. This is hard. And that emotion creates slowing, breaking rhythm, and hesitation. So the professional technique is very simple. Never read long words as one block, always break them into syllable chunks. And this is what I did previously. For example, uncharacteristically. How will you break it? Un, ca, rec, ter, is, t, kal, li. I will repeat. Un, ca, rec, ter, is, t, kal, li. And if you join it, it becomes uncharacteristically. Once the brain sees small pieces, fear disappears and fluency returns. So remember, fluency is psychological before it is phonetic. This slide introduces a subtle but important issue. More than one correct pronunciation. Words like schedule, either, aluminium can be pronounced in UK style or US style. Now here is the key question. Does PT prefer British or American accent? The answer is neither. Consistency is the key. Mixing accents inside one sentence creates an unstable rhythm pattern, and instability sounds non-natural to the AI. So the professional rule is simple. Choose one accent direction and stay loyal to it for the entire test. Consistency creates naturalness. Naturalness creates higher pronunciation score. Simple. Next, we face one of the biggest truths about English pronunciation. English vowels are unpredictable. Words like women, blood, rough do not follow spelling rules. And this frustrates many learners because they want logic. But English pronunciation is not always logical. Sometimes it is simply historical memory. So here is the mindset shift you must accept. Some words must be memorized by sound, not solved by rules. The good news, you don't need thousands of them, only the common academic words that appear in PT passages frequently. So pronunciation mastery here is about targeted exposure, not random learning. Okay. Now this slide reveals one of the strongest secrets of natural fluency, weak forms. In real English speech, small grammar words become soft and reduced. For example, to and have. But many learners pronounce them too clearly, like to and have, and suddenly speech sounds heavy, slow, and robotic. So here is the powerful principle. Natural English is built on contrast. Important words equals to strong, grammar words equals to weak. This contrast creates the music of fluency. Without weak forms, speech loses rhythm and fluency score falls. Finally, for this section, we examine letters that change sound depending on context. Like C. In cat, it is K, but in city, it is C. Okay. Many students assume one letter equals to one sound, but English does not work that way, and mechanical reading produces systematic pronunciation errors. So, the final lesson from this slide is English pronunciation is pattern based, not alphabet based. You must learn sound behavior in real words, not just letters in isolation. Now we enter a very subtle area of natural English speech, reduced endings. In slow classroom pronunciation, every syllable is spoken fully and clearly, but in real fluent English, some sounds become shorter, softer, or almost invisible. Take the word government. Careful pronunciation might sound like government, but natural fluent pronunciation becomes closer to government. Okay, it's government. ERN are completely missing. Now, here is the key insight for read aloud scoring. The AI is not rewarding textbook pronunciation, it is rewarding natural spoken rhythm. When a student pronounces every syllable too carefully, speech becomes slow, heavy, unnatural, and fluency score quietly decreases. So, remember this powerful principle. Natural fluency is not about saying more words, it is about saying the right sounds efficiently. Next, we look at something visually confusing but phonetically simple: double letters. When students see committee, accommodate, and other words like these, their eyes think double letters may be double sound. But in spoken English, double letters usually collapse into a single sound. That's the reality. So the danger here is over effort. Students try too hard to pronounce each letter separately and speech becomes broken. This teaches us an important fluency truth. Good pronunciation is often relaxed pronunciation. Too much effort can sound just as unnatural as too little effort. Now we move to a very practical read aloud challenge: numbers. Numbers are dangerous, not because they are hard to pronounce, but because they interrupt speech rhythm. When students see 1234 or 50%, their brain suddenly switches from language model to calculation mode. And that switch creates hesitation, unnatural pause, broken fluency. But the scoring system wants the opposite. Numbers spoken smoothly inside the sentences flow. So the training idea is simple. Practice reading numbers until they feel like normal vocabulary, not mathematics. Because in read aloud, everything must sound like continuous speech. Next, dates and time expressions. Dates create a similar psychological interruption. For example, March 3rd, 2025. Students pause, recalculate, then continue. And again, fluency suffers. So here is the professional mindset. Dates are not information, dates are pronunciation patterns. Once you memorize common spoken date formats, they stop interrupting your rhythm and fluency becomes smooth again. Simple. Academic passages often include long unfamiliar terminology like biodiversity, metamorphosis, anti-de-establishmentarianism, and many such difficult words. Now, here is a comforting truth: the exam is not expecting perfect native pronunciation of extremely rare words. What it expects is confidence and continuity. Because remember, restarting or freezing damages fluency far more than a small pronunciation imperfection. So, the real skill here is emotional control. Stay calm, keep moving, protect rhythm. That is what high scorers do. Next, compound words. Compound words reveal something fascinating about English rhythm. Take greenhouse. If you read it as green house, the rhythm becomes incorrect because English treats many compound words as one stress unit, not two separate words. So the deeper lesson is fluency depends on stress grouping, not spelling separation. Your eyes may see two words, but your voice must produce one rhythm unit. Next is abbreviations and acronyms. Abbreviations test a different skill. Pronunciation rules versus spelling rules. Some are spoken as letters, like PhD, others as full words, NASA or UNESCO. If you guess incorrectly, clarity drops immediately. So preparation strategy again becomes crucial. During preview time, identify abbreviations and decide pronunciation before speaking begins. This slide is extremely important for fluency music. Punctuation is not vocabulary, it is breathing guidance. Commas means short pause, full stops equals to longer pause, and parenthesis should have soft dip in tone. Students usually make two opposite mistakes. First is ignoring pauses, which leads to rushed speech, and second is exaggerating pauses, which leads to robotic speech. So the real goal is balanced natural pausing. Think of punctuation as the rhythm marks in music. Foreign words or loan words. These remind us that English is a global borrowing language. Words like cafe, fiance, bona fide retain traces of their original pronunciation. If pronounced like normal English spelling, they sound awkward. But again, remember, perfection is less important than smooth, confident delivery. Words ending in ed, a very problematic point. Past tense ed endings follow three different sound rules. I will give you three examples. Walked, played, wanted. Students often apply one rule to all verbs, which creates unnatural rhythm. So mastering this ending is actually mastering tense rhythm in speech. Prefixes and suffixes. Prefixes and suffixes often shift word stress position. For example, international, unbelievable. Wrong stress does not only sound strange, it changes the entire rhythm of the sentence. Like international or unbelievable. So advanced pronunciation is really stress engineering. Here comes the tricky short words which are often skipped. Tiny words like a, of, the, or the look unimportant, but they control speech rhythm. If skipped, it leads to meaning breaks, and if overpronounced, it leads to fluency breaks. So they must be soft but present. This balance is the essence of natural English flow. Commonly confused similar sounding words. Words like accept, affect, effect test meaning awareness during reading. Confusion creates hesitation, hesitation harms fluency. So comprehension and pronunciation are not separate skills, they work together. And now we arrive at the most important conclusion of this entire lecture. All 26 pronunciation features we studied today are not random rules. They form a hidden system that controls clarity, rhythm, fluency, naturalness, and these four elements together create your read aloud score. So, achieving PT 90 in read aloud is not magic, it is not luck, and it is not talent. It is simply clear sound, correct stress, smooth rhythm, confident continuity. Master these, and the score follows naturally. And that is where true PT mastery begins. I hope all of you enjoyed this session. Thank you.